In this video, we're going to show you how to use long division using this example. So we have this rational function. It's a polynomial divided by a polynomial. And we like to use polynomial long division to simplify it. So we'll start here. I'm going to draw my big divided by symbol, my big long division symbol. And I'll take my denominator and put it here. And I'll take the numerator and place it underneath this big long division sign. Now my first step is to look at the leading terms of each of these polynomials. Here's the leading term, and here's the leading term. They're the ones with the biggest degree. So I want to ask myself, how many times does x squared go into negative 3x to the fourth? A different way to ask this question is, what would I have to multiply x squared by in order to get negative 3x to the fourth? I'd have to multiply it by negative 3x squared. Notice where I've put the negative 3x squared. I put the negative 3x squared here because there are three terms in my divisor. 1, 2, 3. So I count 1, 2, 3 terms and place the negative 3x squared over that term. This is to make sure that everything lines up nicely. Now that I've got my negative 3x squared, I want to take negative 3x squared and multiply by my divisor. And I'll do that one term at a time. So first I'll take negative 3x squared and multiply it by x squared. Negative 3x squared by x squared is negative 3x to the fourth. This is good. This means that when I subtract, these two terms are going to cancel. This term should look exactly like the term above it if I've set things up correctly. Now I'll continue. Negative 3x squared times minus 5x is 15x cubed. And now I'll take negative 3x squared and multiply it by 6, and I get negative 18x squared. Now, I want to subtract this top polynomial minus this bottom polynomial. So I put the negative on the outside and put everything in parentheses to remind me that that negative is going to distribute to all the terms. So the first thing I do is I want to subtract negative 3x to the fourth minus negative 3x to the fourth. That's taking negative 3x to the fourth and taking that same thing away from it. So those two are going to cancel and leave me with 0. Next, I'll take 17x cubed and subtract 15x cubed. 17 minus 15 is 2x cubed. And finally, I want to take my negative 33x squared and subtract 18x squared. Here I could think about taking this negative and distributing it over here. A negative 18x squared is the same thing as plus 18x squared. So this is saying negative 33x squared plus 18x squared. That is negative 15x squared. Okay. And the next thing I want to do is to drop down my next term, which in this case is 37x. So now I want to divide my original divisor into my new polynomial down here. And as before, I look at the two leading terms. So I ask myself, how many times does x squared go into 2x cubed? Or, asking it a different way, what would I have to multiply x squared by in order to give me 2x cubed? I'd have to multiply it by 2x. So I write 2x right up there. Now I'll take 2x and I multiply it by each of the terms in my divisor. So 2x times x squared gives me 2x cubed. This is good because as before, 2x cubed looks exactly like the 2x cubed above it. So when I subtract, I'm going to get those things to cancel out. This should always work out, and I should always get these first two terms to cancel. If not, I've done something wrong. Okay. I'm going to take 2x and multiply it by negative 5x. 2x times negative 5x is negative 10x squared. Finally, I take 2x times 6, and that gives me 12x. And as before, I want to subtract that polynomial from the one above it. So I'll write minus, and then I put the polynomial in parentheses. So 2x cubed minus 2x cubed is 0. They cancel out, which is good. Here the next term is negative 15x squared minus a negative 10x squared. And as before, minus negative 10x squared is the same thing as plus 10x squared. So I'm taking negative 15x squared and I'm adding to it 10x squared. That gives me negative 5x squared. And finally, I want to take 37x minus 12x. That leaves 25x. And then I'll bring down my negative 29. So now I'm going to take my original divisor and try to divide it into this new polynomial here. And I'll start by looking at the leading terms. How many times does x squared go into negative 5x squared? Another way to ask it is, what should I multiply x squared by in order to give me negative 5x squared? I'd have to multiply it by negative 5. Now I'll take negative 5 and multiply it by each of these terms in my divisor. So negative 5 times x squared is equal to negative 5x squared. As before, it looks exactly like the one above, so it's going to cancel. Now I'll take negative 5 times negative 5x. That gives me plus 25x. This time the second term is going to cancel, although that doesn't usually happen. That just worked out that the second term is going to cancel in this case. But ordinarily that won't happen. And then finally I take negative 5 times plus 6. That gives me negative 30. And now I want to take the polynomial and subtract it from the one above it. As before, the first terms cancel out. This time the second terms cancel out. 25x minus 25x gives me 0. And finally, I want to look at negative 29 minus a negative 30. And remember, minus negative 30 is the same thing as plus 30. So minus 29 plus 30 is equal to 1. Now my long division has to stop here. I can't really divide x squared into 1. There's no x's here for me to divide it into. So this 1 is my remainder. And that concludes this portion of the polynomial long division. The only thing that's left to me is to go back to my original question. Right? Originally I wanted to simplify this rational function. I wanted to rewrite this rational function in a different form. So now that I've done my long division, that's going to tell me how to rewrite it. So the first thing I'll do is I'll write my quotient. So the thing on top here is called the quotient, and I'm just going to write that my original rational function is equal to that quotient. Okay. The next thing I want to do is put plus, and I'm going to put something over my divisor. Remember, my divisor is my original denominator, right? Denominator or divisor. So I'm going to write something divided by my original denominator. And the thing that goes on top is my remainder of 1. Okay. So again, the quotient goes here. I take my divisor and write it as a denominator, and I take the remainder and put it on top. So this polynomial long division shows that this rational function is equal to negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 5 plus 1 over x squared minus 5x plus 6. And that concludes this video.